Dean Obadallah. He wants to be your Muslim friend.
Most Muslims, I know many, are great people.
Watch this.
People.
You're listening to the Dean Obadallah Show, where comedy meets politics and all things in between.
And welcome back. Dean Obadallah Show live right here, Tuesday, January 15th, and in studio live, and you can watch on Facebook.com/Dina Radio if you want. It's my friend Shelley Wright, country music star, but more than that as well, an LGBT activist, a progressive activist, on the road all the time, the first country music star to come out publicly at a time when it was challenging. And Shelley's in studio for the hour to talk some politics and touring and everything.
I'm so glad to be back.
It's great.
And I'm not even like slinging product.
No, last time you were on, you were selling your holiday album.
Yeah.
And by the way, so we talked about this before. You're touring. Your Twitter feed looks like MSNBC. I mean, it's really slamming Trump. It's like me. You have funny lines too. But you are in country music. You're a country music star. You tour.
Yeah.
I imagine you're in the red states. Some Trumpers have to come out not knowing your politics, or do they know by now?
Well, I think coming out of the closet kind of in 2010 really kind of made everyone aware that, she's
trouble.
What is she doing? She's trouble.
This woman's trouble.
She's gay trouble. So I think anyone who comes out to my shows pretty well knows that I'm a lefty liberal. But I do get Trump supporters that still, support me. And, and I appreciate that. I appreciate fans who, are very, very conservative and maybe Trump supporters that they still want to come out and support the music. Just makes some of the things I say in my show. I don't say a lot.
Right.
I don't say many pejorative things about anybody, but I say a couple of kind of, with the little sleight of hand, I say a couple of things that are meant to be funny and I move on. But I did have a couple leave one of my shows last year.
And did they storm out, or what was it?
I couldn't see the entire venue. I think I know when they left, but I didn't know they were leaving at the time. It wasn't until later that I saw their tweet.
Oh, they tweeted.
They tweeted.
And what did they say?
So sad to have to leave Shelley Wright's show in Annapolis. I know that I'm respectful.
Did they say why?
Because I said something negative about Donald Trump. But I really honestly, I say a lot of stuff on Twitter.
Right.
I say a lot of stuff privately. But in my shows, I'm a little more careful.
But think about that, though, honestly, stepping aside for a second, because even if it was flipped around, because I try to always go, as a progressive, as a truly compassionate person, I try to put myself in the shoes of others at times. They go to your music show, they like the music, but they're so upset about a comment you made in between the jokes, they had to leave to show some kind of protest, which makes no sense to me. Why not enjoy the music? And you can share, you know what, I love your music.
I wish you wouldn't have said that.
But to walk out
yeah.
is like a statement beyond, like it's a level of insecurity of their own views, I think, that I'm being challenged.
Or maybe they just feel so
passionate about Trump.
Passionate. I feel like here's what they should have done, because it's a crapshoot as to whether a celebrity, not that I'm a celebrity, but a known person will see your tweet.
Right.
So if I were, I think they should have thrown a chair. Like, let me know. Don't you think they should have made a scene?
I'm out of here, Shelley Wright. Point of
go
order.
Trump. I feel that it could have just totally been lost had I not just randomly seen their tweet. So they should have let me know. We're out of here.
I was at the White House Correspondents Association dinner last year with Michelle Wolf, where they got really outraged.
Right.
It's not like I could see these snowflakes drifting out, Yeah. But later they made it much more clear on Twitter that I was so offended and I stormed out. And I'm going to go on CNN and tell you how upset I am.
Matt Schlapp and his wife.
Matt Schlapp, oh my God.
Mercedes
Schlapp, the Schlapps.
That's not elite.
And you got them, and you had others too who were so offended by But the guy who spews open bigotry and racism and sexism, that's okay. But God forbid a comedian would poke fun at that.
And Huckabee Sanders lies on the daily, on the regular.
I call her Suckabee at this point. So
what do you think? How do you ulcer? Do you think she has an ulcer, or?
I think
it's got to manifest
I think
itself.
she's mechanical. I don't think she's real.
She's
I think
she's a transformer.
She sleeps in a closet and they wind her up and that's what you do less press conferences now because her batteries are really run low.
Right.
And Trump denies signs because they can't plug her in.
Right.
So it's like, make it work. Make it work. Can't work.
She's totally a transformer.
Perhaps. No, for comedy, I've had people who have walked, it's more like, it used to be early in Trump's time, even in New York, they would heckle you in the audience because they were not New Yorkers. They tend to be out-of-towners.
Oh, right.
So offended by Trump jokes. That kind of has died down.
Right.
That level of passion we had not seen. I even wrote about it for the Daily Beast where no one expected this. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is a comedy club. We make fun of all presidents. This is what we've done forever.
That's the gig.
Right. And
That's
even
the
club
meat and
owners
potatoes
said,
of comedy.
Well, club owners had said, and I interviewed some, we have not seen this level. And that's died down. But for the first 2 months of Trump's presidency, if you did a Trump joke, they would just yell stuff out like Trump does. The idea of like, you suck and don't make fun of Trump and that kind of stuff. And they got a sense about it. I don't think they got any less passionate about him, but for some reason they came to their senses because at the time Trump was attacking SNL and everything.
Right. And you're right. Like the thing about New York audiences is a lot of tourists.
That's why.
And people come from small town America to go see New York. Know the room.
Know
Read
your room.
the room.
You have to. All right. So let's talk about some of the political issues that are impacting the LGBT community. Now you had Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard announced on Saturday with Van Jones. She's going to formally announce. And instantly what happens, now people go back and look at their record, which is completely fair game. You're going to run for president. People have to know your history. And they found, CNN really did a great research on this, that early 2000s, she touted working for her father's anti-gay organization called the Alliance for Traditional Marriage, and where she called homosexuality unhealthy, abnormal behavior that should not be promoted or accepted in society. And again, early 2000s, but when you hear, just forget her apology first, when you hear a politician who said that kind of thing, what's your visceral reaction to that?
Well, it hurts my feelings. I just turned back into a 9-year-old kid. And it wounds me. I mean, I'm hopefully emotionally more stable than I was when I was 9, but it rips me right back into that moment. And, hearing my preacher talk about those types of people and how they are the tear in the fabric of morality. I mean, it hurts and we know that there are young people still coming to terms with who they are, that live in very conservative households, that attend houses of worship of all stripes, which condemn being a gay person.
Right.
So when I hear, and I understand people do evolve and change, and we've got to allow for that margin. I don't like her evolution. I don't, you can really look at certain people on the left and on the right who truly have learned as they go. Quite frankly, I used to say anti-gay things.
And you're gay.
And I'm gay.
But what do you mean? Why would you say them? Like, how would you say them? What's
because
the context?
I thought that people like that were going to hell. So I would just kind of rattle that stuff off.
Oh, you were repeating.
Yeah. And then after I knew, lock, stock, and barrel, I'm a big old gay, I still repeated some of that stuff as a, kind of a shield and hoping to maybe cause people to think that I wasn't gay. That's a different story. But when you think about learning about equality and LGBT issues and how it intersects with faith, it does take people a while, So I know people have been critical of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and a lot of conservative folks like to come at me and say, well, what did you say when Barack Obama said marriage should be between a man and a woman? I wasn't saying much then.
Right.
But what I can say is it's perfectly reasonable for 20 years ago, a known politician, or 10 years ago, to still be learning. The case with Tulsi Gabbard is, I have lots of issues with her, the least of which is the gay ignorance. I don't want to say hate, because I don't think it's hate. I think it's ignorance. But it seems like she's apologized, but it's a non-apology. She thinks that she wants to support gays in policy, but her personal opinion about gays, she says, recently has not changed.
Oh, I didn't know that. 'Cause I look at her statement where she said a few days ago in response to the reporting, first let me say I regret the positions I took in the past and the things I said. I'm grateful for those in the LGBT community who have shared their aloha, which is a Hawaii thing, with me throughout my personal journey. And over the 6 years in Congress, I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to help work toward passing legislation that ensures equal rights and protections. And it goes on from there. And
But she said recently, though, that her opinion of homosexuality has not changed. However, the basis for the apology and her evolution on policy is that she served, I believe she was in the Army. She was a major.
In the military.
Yeah,
right.
She was a major in the Army, served in a medical unit. I think I actually probably met her when I was at Camp Anaconda. I was there lots of times, and I probably met her.
Camp Anaconda?
Yes.
Like in the... Is the snake the song?
As in, yeah.
Right, that's
yeah.
okay.
I mean, it sounds
right,
biting and tough,
right,
which Camp Anaconda is the least of the biting and tough military installations in the Middle East. However, I digress. The basis, the reasoning she's given for coming around on that she'll support LGBT issues is because when she was in Iraq, she saw a government that imposed its will on its people. And she says she doesn't want to be a part of that. But if you ask her further what her personal opinion is at this current juncture about LGBT issues, she hasn't changed. She still finds it immoral.
So what if somebody personally finds it immoral, and they did some good reporting saying in Congress, she has supported efforts to promote LGBT equality, including co-sponsoring the Equality Act, a bill to amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to protect the LGBT community, which is really important. The Civil Rights Act absolutely should be amended to do that. And she signed an amicus brief supporting Edith Windsor's challenge to DOMA, in 2012. So she's taken some action. And of course, I'm getting to the bigger issue, not just about her, about people evolving. Because we've had this discussion, because I so want people to evolve. But can she say, personally, I find it immoral still, but I will never do anything that I will do everything I can to ensure equality? Or does it have to be, by saying it's immoral, you're still showing there's a bigotry and there's something there that's very troubling?
Let's parse this out. If she were a conservative candidate, if she were running for the Republican nomination, I'd say, okay. I'm not that she'd get my vote, but she's running for on the Democratic ticket. That's not good enough. We are the other side of the aisle, and politics is personal, and your personal belief about people like me, that's not good enough on the D side of the aisle.
She also, and I don't make a big deal of it, but about Muslims, she didn't demonize Muslims, but she parroted the Trump line about radical Islam over and over and over. The exact same line, not just radical Islam, but if you don't understand radical Islam, you can't defeat this, which is really stupidity, because experts were saying that's not true. I'm not an expert on terrorism, but I can tell you what you were doing was stigmatizing the Muslim community by saying there's a sect of our faith that is radical. No, there are radical Muslims out there.
Radical Christians,
right,
too.
there are just radical people out there who do things, and they can claim it's the name of their faith, but she was giving it more credibility on the left, which truly conservative. Like when Bill Maher spews, if Bill Maher was just a conservative and spewed anti-Muslim hate, I wouldn't care, because we just saw him. He was on Hardball in the commercial break. I'm like, oh, Bill Maher. I like certain things about Bill Maher. I've been very clear, and things I don't. He doesn't. I don't think he likes me personally, because he attacked me once on his show. He never invited me. They almost booked me. He read an article mocking me.
He did?
Yeah, like a couple years
jelly.
ago. So no,
he's jelly.
No, because I fought with his boy Sam Harris, who was one of these big anti-God people. But in any event, when Bill Maher says anti-Muslim stuff, it hurts me more than a Fox News moron.
Exactly.
Because you're reaching the people we need who are progressives. If we have donut progressives, we've got nobody.
Exactly.
We're alone.
Yes, that's
why it's so
that
troubling.
was my point about Tulsi. The Assad trip she took bothers me. Yeah, bothers me more than anything. But good for her.
Maybe she's a vacation. Maybe she's
it is. I hear it's pretty. No, I don't hear that.
No, I'm kidding. At the time, I should not make light of it. And she went to the capital of Damascus. And here's the interesting thing. I almost went to Damascus. I did not during the war, but right before it. But I'm named Dean legally, but I'm named after Salah ad-Din, which is a great Muslim warrior. And he's buried in Damascus.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to go to see sort of my namesake, because my mom wanted a name after Dean Martin. So I have two namesakes. I have to go to see where Dean Martin's buried and where Sly Dean's buried. Because the Italian
very
side
different day trips.
Right, all different. You pack differently. You plan differently. There's a will involved in one. Right. The other one, there's nothing. You just go on a nice quick trip. I don't know where Dean Martin, maybe he's California, or maybe I think from the Midwest he was born. But
I want to believe he's buried in Vegas. I mean, can we say that?
So we could. Why not? All right. So we want, both you and I want people to evolve. This is really the goal. We really truly want that.
Yeah.
And I quoted you somewhere. I was sort of quoted you. I think I stole your line, right? But no, I was on a few weeks ago on CNN talking about Kevin Hart. And someone else was on from the LGBT community. And I defer to him, Michael Musto, who writes here, stuff. I said, I defer to him on that. But I said, as a Muslim, as a minority myself, I want people to evolve. But it can't just take words, I'm sorry, when you're caught.
Yeah.
It takes more than that. And usually you show it through your actions and over time.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Kevin Hart, who,
what line of mine did you rip off? You
No,
I
did. But something about, you were saying like it took more than you can show us more. You said something.
Put some heft behind the apology.
So,
right. Like do something about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can show your sincerity. It might not just get because you want another position or a hosting thing or whatever it is. And then there's something and then you say you're sorry. And a time a few weeks ago you were on and we discussed it like about a month ago about Kevin Hart. And I wanted Kevin Hart to evolve.
Yeah.
He's a comedian. I don't really know him. I met him once. But, I want everyone to evolve. I'm like, maybe he's evolving. Maybe people being too rough on him. Then a few weeks later, after Don Lemon goes on like an emotional run on his show, and I know Don, I like Don.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart comes out on his show on SiriusXM and comes to SiriusXM and says, it's not my dream to be an ally of the LGBT community, which was such an FU to me. That to me was asshole.
Yeah.
Like there's no need to say that.
Yep.
What was your reaction as being in the LGBT community to hear him say that?
I wanted him to evolve too. And in particular, a cool, successful, big name Black comedian that is like so funny. Like in the African American community, it is so hard for young men to come out. And that community is, really complex with the religious, the intersection again of faith and sexuality. I was really rooting for him to maybe have a long dinner with a couple of gay people who said, Kevin, let me take you to dinner. Let's go to Ruth's Chris. Let's get a steak. Let's talk about it. Those moments, and I know people probably reached out to him and tried to move the needle with him. Those moments can be so powerful and so important for all of us. And when it was right there, like he had a great moment, a great opportunity to grab something and grow. And it doesn't mean he has to go do the GLAAD Awards.
Right.
It doesn't, but to say something so pointed and caustic, it's not my dream to be an ally to the LGBT community. That's mean. And now I just know you're an asshole.
Right. That changed everything for me. I'm like, wow, this is an affirmative choice. And Don Lemon has talked about being in the African American community and coming out as gay. And I can tell you, I imagine the Christian evangelical community. There are many, the Muslim community, it's challenging if people wanted to come out. There's one openly gay imam, and I mentioned to you before, who and I'm sure there are other gay imams, but they don't feel comfortable coming out. And thankfully he did. So people who are in my community who are gay know they can go to someone who can help them because they still want to be Muslim. They want to be proud of their faith, but they want to be who they are. They don't deny their existence just to have their faith. It's so important to have someone like that. So it's not just, when you say it's the Black community, it's so true from what I've heard from Don Lemon, but it's so true for so many communities that still struggle.
The country music community.
Right, your community. What community is accepting?
The sports community.
Who's the most accepting? Have you ever heard from people? Or is it just that things have changed now, evolved, where it's a younger generation are just cool with it? Or
I mean, I think you can find pockets of acceptance in any cross section of America, and that seems to be growing. And the reason it grows is personal experience.
Sure.
Like meeting somebody and thinking, oh my God, that guy's gay, and then sitting down and having a beer with him, and a guy like Kevin Hart going, man, I didn't know what that was like for you. Like, so you're really born this way. Like, those conversations are important. I want to back up a little bit. Kevin Hart learned something from someone. I don't know if it was his father or a coach or I don't know. He learned there's something to fear about gay men. I don't know, a lot of times people like this who are so overtly homophobic, a lot of times we find later that they themselves struggle with their identity, sexual identity. I'm not suggesting Kevin Hart's gay. What I'm saying is I'll bet he comes by it honestly. So I also have a heart for people who they just believe what they believe, and they've believed it for so long. This undoubtedly will not be the last time that Kevin Hart gets in trouble about this. Hollywood is going to give him a lot of leeway because he's a big star right now, a big moneymaker. I promise you, which version is it? But this is going to come up for him again.
Sure.
And hopefully there will be gay people in the community who will continue to call him up and say, man, let's go have a beer, let's go eat, let's talk. At some point, he may be 65 years old, but he's going to figure this out because he's going to hear enough people like me saying, do you know what my life was like?
Right.
Do you know how hard it is to be authentically me? He's a smart guy. All comedians that I know are the smartest people in the room. I
know many who are dopes, but
he's a smart guy.
He's smart. I don't know him. I met him one time.
And I want to assume that he's going to eventually figure this out. But what he just said recently was just mean.
Yeah, I was so stunned by it, I had to go back and read it again. I'm like, he really said that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a break, come back and talk about good news. There's a big vote today in New York at the state legislature.
Yes.
Doing some really great things for the LGBT community and really for humanity, to be blunt. I mean, So we'll come back and talk about that more with our friend Shelley Wright right after this break.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call them the 45th president of the United States. And this will go down as a dark time in America that we'll never refer to again.
SiriusXM Progress.
And now, more of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM's Progress.
Welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here, January 15th, in studio with my friend Shelly Wright. By the way, tomorrow I won't be here. Naira Haq will be. I'll be moderating in New Jersey at Town Hall with Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey at the Islamic Center of Passaic County. It's free, open to all religions, all backgrounds, whatever it is. Come on down at 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 tomorrow. We'll record to play on the show next week. Just drop me an email if you want to come down, or if you Google Eventbrite, you'll see you can RSVP. If you email me, dean@deanofradio.com. I send you information. Again, Patterson, New Jersey. If you're from Jersey, you know where Patterson is in Passaic County, so northern Jersey. So, by the way, folks, how would you like a New Year's resolution of really good, clean teeth and healthy gums? Well, there's only one way, and Shelly's applauding. There's only one way to get that. At least one way I know that I get is through Quip, Q-U-I-P, the perfect brush every time. It takes care of all your bad brushing habits because you're supposed to brush for 2 minutes. I don't know this. You press a button, it goes automatically for 2 minutes. Every toothbrush of the future because it's like slim like a pen, battery powered, but it's like electric.
Does it have a light?
No
Is it
light.
light?
That's
Okay.
different. That's
All
next model, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
But it doesn't take up any room on your van. But I'm telling you, you're going to love it. Plus, if you order by going to getquip.com, getquip.com/Dean, you get your first refill pack for free. Every 3 months, they send you a refill pack for just $5, which is toothbrush, a new toothbrush head, and a battery. And Quip toothbrushes start at $25. You can't beat it. It's a great toothbrush. Again, getquip.com/Dean. So let's go back to our
one.
Getquip.com/Dean. You got to use the /Dean, Shelly.
I'll do it.
I'll see if I can get you one. I'm going to talk to the Quip people. Like my friend Shelly Wright. So let's talk about the good news. Today in New York, the state legislature, both the Senate and the House, for the first time in 16 years, have been trying to get one of these bills through. They got through both. First, it's going to ban gay conversion therapy in the state. And second, protect transgender Americans from discrimination. First, what is...
When your kid comes and tells you that they're gay and because of your religious background and conservative thinking, you send them basically to gay camp to ungay you. And it is a horrific, damaging practice, not super good relationships with them, but I've heard from them about their gay conversion therapy experience. It's devastating. The numbers of young people who are subjected to this because their family starts bad for the human spirit. This is such a big win for not just LGBT people, but for their families.
Sure.
When it's off the table that, I guess we can't send Junior to gay conversion therapy, when that's not even a choice that you can make,
right.
What a gift to you as well.
It's, I looked up some of the history of it. I mean, in past decades, their idea of gay conversion therapy was even castration, electric shock, institutionalizing people. And then in modern day, it became much more like cognitive psychoanalytic practices and aversion therapy.
Exposure therapy that really messes. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff that can mess you up.
It's unreal in today's day and age that someone would think that you can just, I guess, de-gay them is the way they look at it. It's just something wrong with you because in the early days, and only a few decades ago, the mental health professionals would classify people who are gay as a mental health disorder, as a mental disorder. And it evolved. Yeah. But so to them, I guess they just thought, well, it's a mental disorder. We can get rid of it for you. Yeah. But today's day and age, we're so far beyond that. I don't understand how you could think.
It's all related.
Right, Muslims do have the same problem.
I mean, I love your outrage, and I love the fact that you say, how can they fill in the blank? A number of things that people do that are you look at it, any reasonable person would look at it, and it's at odds with any reason, but they suspend all intellect. And I'm a person of faith. Right. But they suspend they're just acquiescing to some dogma that they think they're supposed to believe.
So when you you said you had friends who went through this or acquaintances, did they say like how it impacted them going forward? I mean, did they have to lie? Did any of them lie to their parents? Go, okay, I'm not gay anymore.
Yes.
It worked? Oh, they did.
Some of them did that. Some of them ran away from the gay conversion therapy and knew they couldn't go home and then left home. That's when they left home. Mm-hmm. Can I still go to college?
Wow.
And So she just lied and told them, I am still gay, but I'm not acting on your sexuality without the support of your family. You get really creative and you're really resilient and tough, and you find ways to survive your environment. But some of the trauma that is inflicted through gay conversion therapy makes you just completely kills your spirit. I mean, it's awful. And I know a couple of people who've killed themselves.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's bad.
Well, now New York is one of now 15 states. Once this gets signed into law, and Governor Cuomo has vowed to sign it. Now, the other part of the law is to protect transgender New Yorkers, because it's a New York law, from discrimination in the workplace or from harassment under the law. Why is this important?
It's the same kind of important as the LGB, part of the LGBT. It's the same. It's just that our transgender brothers and sisters are always, they happen to be getting their equality a little slower and a little later than we are, which is unfair, but that's where we are. It's as important as, the equality that have been progressing in the past 10, 15, 20 years. It's everything. If you're a transgender person and you're at work and you're working for a, big corporation, small company, it doesn't matter. If you feel like you're going to be not have the same opportunities at work, if you feel like you're going to be fired if people find out you're trans, I mean, that's not your hobby. That's your job. That's how you're paying for your food and keeping your light on. So I know I hear a lot of talk about, trans issues. Oh, it's kind of a fringe thing and kind of a novelty thing. It's not. A lot of damage has been done to a lot of people. People have been unfairly fired, unfairly maligned, but we are getting there, and it's pretty cool.
When I was reading about the news stories about this law and what led to it, is that it's not just discrimination at the workplace. I mean, there are transgender high percentage that were told they were denied medical services. Like the doctors didn't want to treat them. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, what a situation to be, you're sick, you're ill, and a doctor doesn't want to treat you because they're uncomfortable with this idea of a transgender person coming in. That can't happen. And if you look at the suicide rate for transgender teens, I mean, the average American is like 3 to 4% of attempts. For teens, you're talking about in the 40% that have attempted suicide because they're made not to fit in. And when you have Donald Trump calling for a ban on transgender Americans serving in the military to make a part of his religious base happy, it's despicable. And there's a human cost to that kind of situation. He doesn't care. Nor do the people who claim that everything they do is about Christianity and caring, who are the ones that pushed them to do this. Right. The Jerry Falwell Jr.'s and the Franklin Grahams is horrible, and these people. There's nothing Christian about making people suffer or leading them to hurt themselves because you're uncomfortable. I don't know where the basis in Christianity would be found in that.
Well, there isn't one. There isn't one. And we know that when laws are passed, hearts and minds change long after laws are put on the books. I mean, Loving versus Virginia was 1967. Yep. Did that mean it obliterated racism? No. But there's something really powerful about having a law on the books. And that, that seeps into society, and people who, I don't want blacks to marry whites, or I don't want gays to get married, or I don't want trans people to have all of these rights. They're not asking for special rights. They're asking for equal rights. And once these laws are put on the books, as is happening this week with our trans brothers and sisters, hearts and minds that wouldn't otherwise change will change. It's important to have the law in the books. Really important.
And you mentioned Loving versus Virginia, and I've written about that very case and public opinion at the time. It's very interesting what you said, because it's completely right. At the time of Loving versus Virginia was decided in 1967, and that was Supreme Court striking down laws that made it a crime for black and whites to get married. There were 12 or 13 states that still had it. In any event, public opinion at the time, 70% of Americans supported those laws. 70%. Yeah, because that wasn't left or right. That was 70% of Americans are like, I don't want blacks and whites to get married, even some black people. Right. It took almost 25 years later for a majority of Americans. It wasn't the 1990s. Exactly. A majority of Americans finally said, hey, I think it's okay for blacks and whites to get married. Now it's changed quickly, even quicker now.
It does. And once it's on the books, that's kind of like a new beginning. That's like a new starting line in terms of like civil rights and gay LGBT rights. It's surprising to me still how many people say, "Well, that's a law." Well, that's the law. So once it's not the law, then you can't say that anymore. And then you actually have to engage your heart and your mind and think.
That's how cultural norms change. What you're talking about,
Yeah.
cultural norms change. Law, court decisions can have an impact. What do you say to the fact that right now, today we sit here, January 15, 2019, there are still 28 states that you can be fired simply for being gay? Like they just walk in, oh, you're gay, you're fired. That's it, get out of here.
Well, I don't like it. I know, it affects my family in terms of, like, for instance, my wife and I are actually having to go through an adoption process, even though we're...
Someone can adopt you?
Shelley
Wright, adopt a highway, adopt Shelley Wright.
Yes,
okay,
be amazing.
Right.
Can I get retroactive payment? So when we travel with our kids, there are certain states in which, our marriage is recognized because it's a federal law, but our parenting, there's no infrastructure set up legally that causes all of the states to recognize my parental position with my boys and with Lauren. So I gave birth to our boys.
Right.
So, and Lauren is on their birth certificate as well. But if we go to one of those states that doesn't recognize the parental structure that we have, if one of our boys has to go to a hospital, which, by the way, our boys go to the hospital a lot because they're 5.5-year-old boys. We have stitches. We have lots of things going on. There's a good chance that she won't be allowed in to go see the boys.
Because you're the mom, legally,
I'm the
that's
mom.
it, and she's not recognized.
So we had to hire an attorney, and a lot of gay people in similar situations. Our attorney said you wouldn't believe how many families are hopping to getting this done since Trump has been in office. I had to get letters of character reference saying that I'm a good mom. Lauren had to get all those letters as well. There's not a lot more that dehumanizing and humiliating experience than having to ask somebody to write a letter saying that you're a good mom. It's really awkward.
Yes.
I had to get letters from my doctors saying that I'm sane and healthy. We had to have someone come into our home, a social worker. She had the right to look in any closet, so we had to go through all of this so we could vote. Now, we had to have a doctor from the boys' pediatrician saying that she believes we bring the boys in to see her when they have a fever. She believes that we're taking good care of them. The lengths that we went through to have these children, and they were in the NICU for 3.5 weeks. This is our life, these children, and we had to ask for letters of reference that a judge in New York will now look at. We finally got our court date,
right,
and we had to pay money, to get all this done.
Well, sure.
It's not cheap. And there are families that look like mine that don't have the resources to do that. It's an expenditure that is unfair, unwarranted. I can't believe it's even constitutional that we have to do this, but we have to do this. So the fact that there are still 28 states on the books where somebody could be fired for being gay, or they could lose their housing for being gay, it's embarrassing, I guess is the word.
Immoral, un-American,
an
horrible.
outrage.
It's unreal how much money you have to spend simply to have the rights, and most couples take for granted. They don't. I mean, just heterosexual couples just take for granted.
Get in the back of a Pontiac,
right? And
you
drive,
make it happen,
and you have to worry about. You got the kids, and you have paperwork. So
no, I'm saying make the baby.
Oh, make the baby easy. But I'm talking
you
about
make the baby, and
then
then you're just legally its parent,
right? But now in your case, you actually, and I didn't even know this that as a parent, same-sex couple, while your marriage is recognized because of the Supreme Court decision, they can't stop that as much as they would like to in some places.
Parental status is not.
I didn't know that at all. I've learned. I hope everyone else learned. All right, let's take a break. Come back with our friend Shelley right after this.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the right to vote preserves all other rights. It's not the Second Amendment. It's not guns. It's voting.
Sirius XM Progress. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show,
Exclusively
on Sirius XM's Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. So, you get home from a long day at work. You're hungry. You're like, what am I going to cook? Where are the ingredients? I forgot these ingredients. Well, how do you resolve all of that for the best? HelloFresh.com. HelloFresh.com, Shelly. You get a box.
Yeah.
Everything is in there.
What?
The entree, the side dishes, the spices, and an apron. 30 minutes or less. Simple recipes. Anybody, I've cooked countless meals from it. Anyone can cook it. They have some great chicken dishes, fish dishes. They got vegetarian for the whole family,
Whoa.
individual, you name it. HelloFresh.com's got it. Gourmet menu starting at $6.99 per serving, delivered right to your doorstep. So it's never like you start cooking like, I'm missing this ingredient. Or wouldn't it be great if I had these vegetables? They're all there in the box.
Is it already cut up, or do you cut it up yourself?
No, you have to cut it up. It's like if you get like
Right.
a potato, it's a whole potato, and it's all
Right.
fresh. Hello
Right.
Fresh. Huh.
And an apron.
And the apron for HelloFresh.com. And folks, right now you can save $80 off your first order. That's $20 off your first four boxes by going to HelloFresh.com/Dean. Then enter code DEAN80, as in saving $80. That's right. You can try DEAN120. I'm not sure if that'll work. Maybe save $120. But all I can authorize to offer you at this time is DEAN80. It's HelloFresh.com/Dean. And then when you're checking out, enter promo code DEAN80. You're going to love it. It's the #1 meal delivery kit in America, and there's a good reason why. So, Shelley, you were saying you've been traveling all over the country. Now, recently, since the shutdown, and
Yeah.
you've been interacting and speaking with TSA officials, and what are you hearing firsthand?
It's all I've been doing is flying in the past couple of weeks. They're having a hard time. I mean, they're short-staffed. I didn't experience it personally that anyone told me anything was shut down
Right.
in the airports I was in, but I did experience some really long security lines. And I talked to a couple of TSA workers because I like to get there early.
That's what you do.
I like to talk.
She talks to them. She wants to, what about their needs? Like, how are things going
well,
with
I just
you?
want to find out. Well, I was curious on my flight back from Hawaii a couple of days ago, and there was a gal that told me that, like, she's mad. She said, this is serious. And by the way, she's a Trump supporter. I asked her. She said, this is not what we signed up for. And she said, well, I won't say everything she said because there was some swear words, but she said she had to borrow money from her father-in-law. And she said, and do you know what it takes to get me to ask for money from my father-in-law? They live paycheck to paycheck. She's got kids. And she said it's painful. It's difficult. And she said she feels sick. She said, I'm not sleeping well because I'm worried. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this shutdown. That's real.
Right. I was saying earlier in the show, you imagine anyone out there that you didn't get paid for 25 days, you're even working, you didn't get paid, and worst part, you have no idea when your next check is coming because Trump has vowed to make this long term because he doesn't care. He was born, his dad gave him $60 million when he was like a teenager or a young adult. He's never suffered in his life. His idea of suffering is not having had to eat like French's mustard instead of Grey Poupon or something like that. That's his idea of suffering.
Well, I grew up poor. I grew up in the Midwest in a small farm community, and my dad was a construction worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was a polio survivor, and I specifically remember several times, in fact, maybe scores of times, we would drive in the middle of the night to where we had to take our electric bill, which was one town over. And I asked my mom once, why are we driving and putting it in the deposit box late at night? And she said, well, if I took it earlier today, the check wouldn't have cleared. Oh. And so she said, I can't take it over there until I get your dad's check and put that in the bank. This was the real stuff that happened in my family. And this is what American families deal with. And they're dealing with it now, as well as they ever have. But when President Trump gets on TV and says, well, the people it's affecting, they'll make it work.
Right.
They know how to do this. They'll make it work. You can't squeeze,
No, only 40% of Americans have $1,000 or more in their savings. So if you think about that, 60% don't have that. So I imagine many of these workers, the average wage for federal workers is a take-home pay is around $500 a week. They're going to have to pay a mortgage payment or a rent payment, a car payment, food for their kids, a deductible for health care for their kids. I heard a mother in tears saying, my daughter has a chronic health condition and we're struggling to pay her deductible. Yeah. This is because of one person, Donald J. Trump. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. He could care less.
There's no crisis at the border.
there's no crisis at the border. Now he's like, today there's a new caravan forming. Well, our border security that worked the last few times the caravan came will do the same thing this time.
Yeah.
They're not going to overwhelm us. We are an amazing nation. All right, we have to take a quick break. By the way, there's breaking news. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York has just announced she's running for president.
All righty
All over
then.
your show. I'm not kidding. So
Oh, wow.
it was a very kind of subtle thing. Like Aaron Burnett, I think, broke the story. Like, didn't she have a rally or something? So we'll be right back with more of Shelley Wright right after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. The Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're in studio here with Shelley Wright, country music star and LGBT activist. So, Shelley, you're doing a thing where Shelley house concert. You will perform in people's house. Tell people, we have like a minute. I'm intrigued by this.
So a few years ago, I got hired to do a private show in someone's house. I did it, like, kind of hesitant, like, what is this going to be like?
Sure.
It was the most fun I'd had in years. So I told my manager, let's put it out there that we are going to choose from some submissions. We're going to do this. And I'll bet I did 20 house shows last year, and the year before maybe 20 as well. It's so fun. I come to your house, we cap it at 30 people. It's me, my guitar, I play for an hour and a half. It's stories, it's songs, it's so fun. You can email if you want me to come. Shelley House Concert. It's CHELY House Concert singular, at gmail.com. And we try to route them with other shows
That's
that I have.
interesting.
It's so fun.
I'm going to do Dean radio show at your house. I'm going to come to your living room. You're not going to even know it. I'm just showing up with my team, like knock on the door, and we're going to go to the deepest red part of the country, like boom, boom, boom.
Oh,
Progressives here, and I'm a Muslim, and I'm coming to your house. It's Sharia law.
That's going to go well.
Shelly, thanks very much for coming in studio and chatting. I look forward to chatting with you again.
Thank
Good
you,
luck
Dean.
on your tour. Folks, we'll be back with Danny Savalas, our Law and Disorder weekly segment on Tuesday. He'll be here right after this.